exactly that the square, the tile, works well. So like Windows 8 is a really great example of an interface that is digitally native. They use typography and color to present applications to you, whereas a lot of iPad applications, they rely on like fake leather to give the application a certain feel, or to remind the user what the physical object was like. Before it was digital, but I wonder, like, who still remembers a paper calendar? Like, when you pick up an iPad, do you actually remember owning a leather-bound contact book? Like, it's getting a bit absurd, right? And the last point is the powerful search-based launchers. As Mathieu showed, this is getting more important with each release of GNOME. They're moving away from menus where you click, have a category, and then select your program. They're hoping that people will get accustomed to querying, to typing the names of the applications, but there's lots of problems with that. Turns out people don't really know what their applications are called. So what was it called? GNOME Web. Before it was Epiphany. Well, very few people would associate Epiphany with like a web browser, or events for a PDF reader. So yeah, so there's still some issues with that have to be overcome. But then there's GNOME Shell, which I think is the front runner when it comes to app-centric WIMPs. I won't go into too much detail because Mathieu has already talked about the general features of GNOME Shell. But as you can see, they have simplified the menu for this, in this case, the app called Files. There's no more the menu bar where you had the file, edit, view, tools. That's been removed. And there's also, I guess it's also important to note, like, where are your active apps? Where can you see what applications are running? Like, do you miss it? Are there other things that you miss? No? No? So this is one of the concepts that that GNOME Shell is championing, which is this idea that you don't need to minimize your windows. It doesn't make sense anymore. They even removed the minimize and maximize button. There's just a close button. Huge outrage. What are we going to do with our windows now that we can't minimize them anymore? So it requires a new way of interacting with your applications. It requires a rethinking of the workflow that you have for your computing needs. And their solution is workspaces. So each workspace can be seen as like a subset of related applications or windows. And if you use them in that way, the need for minimizing, being able to drag windows around is greatly reduced. And as you can see here, this is the search-powered app picker. So there's no longer a desktop where you put your icons on. Sometimes there's shortcuts, sometimes they're files, sometimes they're my computer. Now it's all hidden away, but if you press the super key, you can access all your applications. Yeah, people don't always like change. That's sometimes because they're very, very, very invested in the status quo. So in the case of GNOME 2, they already had a desktop environment that suit a lot of people's needs. They were very efficient, productive, to the workflows of GNOME 2. So when it radically changed in GNOME 3, they were upset. So if you remember, like the desktop paradigms, I think GNOME 2 is considered a more traditional desktop metaphor, and GNOME 3 is that app-centric WIMP. So it's been simplified. It's dumbing down. We're losing features. Functionality is removed. I can't do what I used to do. Oh my God, we can't configure it anymore the way I wanted to. My favorite one is it kills productivity. I can't get anything done, and it just ain't the same.
Absolutely true.
It's true, right? It's you know, I must admit, I started using GNOME with 3.0, so I never made that switch. But coming in as a new user, I was like, what are they talking about? I was very confused as to what the supposed usability issues were that yeah, have a lot of had a lot of activities on the internet. So if we were to address those issues, I'd like to think of a conceptual framework where we can place those restrictions or constraints or limitations that they see, and see why they actually perceive them as limitations and issues, and what we can do to improve on them. So I believe that there is a mother of all divides. There is a difference in interfaces that is between an idealist strand and a realist strand, and it factors into lots of things, from discovery to input methods to what you display and what you can ultimately do. And just to be clear, this is not this is idealism and realism in the Platonic sense. So these are you should see them as the abstract philosophical concepts, not the what do we want and what do we get of. So if you consider the first aspect, like between search and browse, I think Mathieu already touched upon that. This is about discoverability. Like how do we believe that users get to their content, get to their applications? Turns out it's about 50-50. Some users, they like to search. They are keyboard focused. They like to type in what they're looking for. And others, they need or they want visual cues. They want it to look at the screen, find what they need, click on it, and eventually get there. The first search is a lot more cognitively intensive because you have to rely on your memory. Browsing is more interactionally intensive because instead of typing what you want, enter, and opening it, it's click, move, navigate around, filter. It takes a lot longer, but it's not as cognitively intense. So a lot of people prefer it.